playtime's over because tonight somebody's going to get their ass whooped tonight in here.
Why do I run and why do I hide when I see it coming further on down the line? Why do I sing and why do I write these songs? I know I'll try to these thoughts of mine, but the springs of ideas I just wait.
Hello and welcome to Bowling Shoe Handsome for Monday, April 2nd, 2012. I'm your host, Kevin McElveen, here with the first ever Bowling Shoe Handsome WrestleMania Recap Edition. Folks, I'm very excited because last night's event, WrestleMania 28, was a veritable smorgasbord of quick highs, long lows, and often delightful and awkward in-betweens. Tonight's edition of Bowling Shoe Handsome examines this event, poking and prodding through it in attempts to make sense of what can only be called the keystone of the pro wrestling calendar year, and for better or for worse sometimes. We have a couple of guests coming up tonight. First of all, we have journalist and pro wrestling analyst Brock Koller, and another pro wrestling analyst, The Real Deal, coming up a little bit later. And both of them making their first appearances here on Bowling Shoe Handsome. We're going to begin tonight with a rundown of the Mania match results by way of seeing how I did with my predictions for the event over at thebradyhicks.com on the In the Room podcast. But first, some music.
I keep my head before me, and if time should end today, at least I'll die believing. At least I'll die believing. At least I'll die believing. At least I'll die
That was the band Plow United with the song The World According to Me. That song by Plow United, and actually every song released on Plow United's 3 albums, is available out now on the album Sleepwalk, a retrospective. It's on iTunes, it's in CD format, and it's out via Paper and Plastic Records. So if you enjoyed that song, be sure to check out the rest of the band's material. Highly recommended. Before that, we had the Bavarian. That's I can make a horrible B pun. Sorry, folks. Still a little bit tired from last night's WrestleMania festivities. The Bavarian punk band Irish Handcuffs with the song Keepsake. Fantastic track there. And happy to include it in the show this week. So, here we go. The first ever Bowling Shoe Handsome WrestleMania recap. The night's opening bout was Sheamus challenging Daniel Bryan for the World Heavyweight Championship. I predicted a win here and continued title reign by D-Bry, perhaps by cheap means, but a win nonetheless. And boy was I wrong, because Sheamus not only won this match, but he demolished Daniel Bryan in a mere 18 seconds, needing a single bro kick to pick up the victory and nothing else. 0 for 1. Following that, we had Kane taking on Randy Orton. I predicted a Kane victory here, if only to balance out the bevy of good guy wins I was forecasting for the rest of the card. I was right on this one, bringing me to 1-1 for the evening at that point. The night's third match was contested for the Intercontinental Championship, pitting champion Cody Rhodes against habitual WrestleMania runner-up, The Big Show. I called this one for Cody a bit too quickly, it seems, as Show handily defeated Cody with a crappily monikered, albeit highly effective, knockout punch. 1-2 for me for the evening up to that point. Next up, in the fourth match in the first hour of WrestleMania 28, that's right, a 4-hour show, and half the matches occurred in the first hour. Just keep that in mind, folks, as we head into some more discussion later. But the fourth match, we saw Maria Menounos from Extra, Channel 1 News, and many other shows, and Kelly Kelly, or Kelly Squared as no one calls her, easily defeating Beth Phoenix and Eve in a Divas tag match. I picked this one correctly, bringing me back to a 500 average for the evening. The Undertaker, as predicted by almost everyone, defeated Triple H in a brutal, sure to go down in history as the stuff of legends, amazing, epic, balls out, Hell in a Cell match. Really, really well done. I was literally out of my chair at points during this match, which I will talk about, I'm sure, later on this evening. And I was among the almost everyone who picked Taker in this one. So 3-2 to that point in the show. Team Johnny defeated Team Teddy with the Raw and SmackDown general managership on the line and correctly picking Team Johnny. That brought me to 4-2. So 4 wins, 2 losses here, heading into the second to the last match of the evening, and that would be the WWE title match. In another fantastic matchup, CM Punk forced Chris Jericho to submit to the Anaconda Vice, allowing Punk to retain his WWE title, and also for me to obtain my 5th correct prediction of the evening. And then finally, in the main event, the once-in-a-lifetime match, and to the surprise of almost everyone, the great one, Dwayne "The Rock" and Tooth Fairy Johnson pinned John Cena, star of 12 rounds, everyone, with the Rock bottom. I did not pick the Rock in this one, like most other people, and that left me with a respectable, if not great, 5 wins and 3 losses in my WrestleMania predictions for the year 2012. So, that said, those were my WrestleMania predictions. We have a lot to talk about here tonight, and we have not one, but 2 guests. First, we're going to play some music. This one's called "This Talk About the Girl" by Bay Area pop punk legends Sweet Baby.
The way she switch her talk and leave you in the dark. Let's talk about the girl. It's the only thing I have in this whole world. In the world, this is talk about the girl. My friends live with higher problems, with people starving and dying in Harlem. They say it's my concern, and I know they're right, but the 3,300 miles to buy. So let's just talk about the girl. My friends, they write short stories. I try and read them, but you know they bore me. No one I know has a thing to say. I wish they'd be honest and live their lives away, or go away, or just talk about the girl, or talk about the girl, or talk about the girl, the girl, the girl, the girl, the girl. Oh, 1.5 years, you'd think that I'd grow up, but what have I become? I'm 21 and still afraid of love. I didn't talk about it much, I didn't talk about it at all. I admit that's what I did, and I guess that's what I get for expecting something that I never said. This is my true step, my best foot forward. I had a shaky ground and I'm shaking now, but why? Well, I'll try not to wet my brow. Still, I'll always think of you. Why cry when you have your whole life to live through? And why, when I'm hardly the same man I was if I were you? Well, I'd think about these things when I ask why. Oh, history repeats, and I'd say I've learned it well, 'cause I know that I have made the same mistakes again. See the ties that bind, unwind like laces of shoes or boots. Still we walk, trudging on with grudges like our flips, dark pauses, callously our feet just walk them off. Well, why cry when you have your whole life to live through? And why, when I'm hardly the same man I was if I were you? Well, I think about these things when I ask why. And if that's not enough to fill up my cup that I poured out, well, that's tough, I know it's tough, but it's all that I have, so I hope it's enough. This is my true step, my best foot forward. I had a shaky ground, and through it I will think of you and ask why.
That was My True Step by the band Tin Armor. That's from their album A Better Place Than I Have Been. We actually have another song from them coming up a little bit, actually at the end of the program. And if you enjoyed that song, then plenty of Tin Armor music available, both digitally and in physical formats. I recommend going and sampling some at iTunes, and then you can check out their Bandcamp website and purchase the music if you are so inclined. Before that, we had the band Sweet Baby, formerly known as Sweet Baby Jesus, out of the Bay Area. And just amazing band. And that song was This Talk About the Girl from their album It's a Girl, which is, despite the dissolution of Lookout Records, which for a long time released that record, the album It's a Girl is still available digitally at iTunes and other fine retailers. I just got to put that out there because we have some fantastic bands who are willing to share their music with us on here, and I'm sharing it with you in the hopes that you will get into it and support the artist if you are a fan of what you're hearing. So here we have an interview with a very, very important person. The man, the myth, the legend, the other words that mean all the same things as those words. Ladies and gentlemen, in his first appearance on Bowling Shoe Handsome is the interview with Brock Koller. All right, and I'm joined here on Bowling Shoe Handsome by reporter, journalist, and pro wrestling analyst Brock Koller. Brock, welcome to Bowling Shoe Handsome.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Kevin. I'm excited to be a part of the show.
That's good, and of course, very good to have you here. I'll repeat it. It's very good to have you here. So
you can't repeat it enough.
It's very good to have you here. It's very good to have you here. It's very okay. So, Brock, big part of why we're having you on here tonight is because you are currently in Miami, Florida, right? This is not Miami, Ohio.
No, as far as I can tell, it is not Miami, Ohio.
Okay, well that's good, because what I want to ask you about is the WrestleMania event. As I heard that you were in attendance last night.
I was one of the millions and millions, or so they would like you to think.
A legit 78 some odd thousand. So
that's pretty close to a million.
It's really very good. That has to be one of the top 3 or top 5 WrestleMania crowds, anyway.
It wasn't 93,173.
No, it was no Pontiac Silverdome, but still not shabby. Anyway, I have you on the show here because I'm interested, and I feel the Bowling Shoe Handsome audience will be interested in your thoughts on the show. So just, if you could just, as general or as specific as you want, what were your thoughts about WrestleMania as a whole?
As a whole, I would have to say that it was a pretty decent show. I mean, I walked away happy that I spent my hard-earned money on the show, and I've been to the last 3 shows, and for the most part, I would have to say that this was the one that I got the most fulfillment out of, the most enjoyment, and overall, I think they did a really good show. I mean, yes, there were parts where I went, oh, come on, and you got to be kidding me, and what the heck is that? Mm-hmm. But for the most, it was, hey, they're entertaining me, and I'm getting my money's worth.
Well, you know what? Let's get the negative out of the way right away. So what were these moments, and I feel like we probably had a few of the same ones that had you scratching your head or just like, oh, come on.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, I think WWE was getting the negative out of the way as the first hour was perhaps the most negative of everything. And to start it off the way that they did, the phrase "you start off on the wrong foot." Mm-hmm. I think they started off on like 20 wrong feet. If that makes any sense, it probably doesn't. I'm getting the bowling shoe phrases in here as well. But what they did with Daniel Bryan and Sheamus, I was astonished, and not astonished in the happy way.
Right.
It was a disgrace, as I tweeted it on Twitter. Right. And I mean, if you were in attendance, if you were one of these 78,000, you would see that the most over guy was Daniel Bryan. Everybody was doing his yes chant, sometimes ad nauseum, but you could tell that everybody was excited to see him. When he came down the aisle, everybody went ballistic. Everybody was jumping for joy. Hey, there's our guy. And then 2 seconds. Well, I guess it had to be more than 3 seconds.
It was 18
1,
total.
2, 3.
Yeah.
It was 18.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like King Kong Bundy, S.D. Jones. Like, you don't do that to
No, Brock,
your
come on.
world heavyweight champ.
That was 8 seconds longer than the King Kong Bundy S.D. Jones match.
I mean, and then, like, you don't do that. Like, why even have the World Heavyweight Championship if you're going to do that? I mean, I understand this is going to build up Sheamus. Yeah, look what he can do. He can win the championship in a Diesel-like fashion. But,
right.
I mean, for Daniel Bryan, he was champion for so long, since December at TLC, and people pay for WrestleMania to see the matches that are announced. Think of all the people. I mean, sure, most people were ordering for The Rock and John Cena, but the wrestling enthusiasts who want to see a wrestling match, some of them were paying just to see more matches, of course, but one of the big reasons was to see what Daniel Bryan could do in the ring at WrestleMania. They didn't get it last year, the same match. It was pushed off the card, and then it turned into an awesome battle royal, as always. But it was, I was just dumbfounded. I even did the smack to the forehead, and I went, come on.
And
I think exactly like that, Kevin.
Right, and I think I heard, actually, for about half of the second match, chants for Daniel Bryan during the Randy Orton-Kane match. Was I hearing that right?
You are correct. Yes, I don't know if you heard my voice, but I was one
specifically.
of them.
Yes, I thought, that must be Brock. That one voice, and with the other few thousand that are chanting.
And I was like, I hope Kevin can hear me. But no, yeah, the majority of the audience was in shock, and we were disgusted with the whole situation. I mean, and then every time a segment came on, like a backstage segment or a Brodus Clay segment or two music segments, just in the back of my mind, I kept thinking this could have been time given for the World Heavyweight Championship match. It's just crazy. I mean, it's WrestleMania. There should be some wrestle in it.
Absolutely,
not just Mania.
A lot of it was Mania. That's a good
point.
A
lot of it was me.
Yeah, and I believe that first backstage segment with Team Johnny was somewhere in the vicinity of 2.5 minutes, which would make that about 10 to 12 times longer than the World Heavyweight title match, which is sad.
Good mathematics. Good mathematics there.
It was good mathematics. And all right,
you would catch me on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm all for a John Laurinaitis backstage segment, but not at the expense of the World Heavyweight Championship.
Right. And I think you're right about a lot of things getting bumped for those musical acts, and I think the less said about those, the better. But it's a wrestling show.
You didn't like Brodus Clay and the Bridge Club?
That was relatively better than the two songs before the Cena Rock match.
That was better than MGK getting booed out of the stadium.
Now, the crowd actually seemed very hostile to you with the Pro Rock anti-Cena crowd. Was it more hostile? Of course, you having been to many events in the Philadelphia area, you're one who's familiar with the hostile wrestling crowds. Was this especially hostile?
What are you trying to say here?
I'm not trying to say anything. I'm just saying you've been to plenty of shows.
But no, he was definitely 80% rock. I would say. No, my friend Mike over here, who also was part of the 78,000 million crowd, he's giving me maybe a little. Did you maybe in your section? But I was cheering for Cena, Kevin, and I was getting overshadowed by all the rock fans. Yeah. It was definitely in my section, and I don't know. I felt like it was definitely a very pro rock. I don't know if. I know with everything that's been leading up to the match, I don't know if they did justice. So I think they turned some Rock fans into Cena fans. So I don't think the Rock got the reaction that he used to get as much as he would have if they didn't do as much of this trash talking to make you think that both guys weren't the greatest. But
yeah,
I don't know. From where I was sitting, it was definitely pro Rock, and anytime Cena would do a move, he would get booed.
Right. Okay, fair enough. Well, what other highlights, I guess, would you say? Because we're focusing on some of the negative here, but obviously there were some great things that occurred. So what were some of your personal favorite moments from the show?
I mean, match-wise, it was definitely the Cell match, the Undertaker Triple H. They tore the roof off the place. In fact, there's no roof.
And
There's no roof anymore because they tore it off. But no, that was definitely. And for me, I think it started off a little bit slow. But I mean, I guess every great match maybe starts off a little slower, so it picks up steam as it goes along.
It has to.
And
yeah.
I thought I was like, this is how it's going to be through the whole match. Come on now. And but I mean, no, I was on the edge of my seat throughout the whole thing. I was like, they can't let Triple H win. And then I was thinking, is this going to be the Undertaker's last match either way? I was like, so I was trying to enjoy as much as possible. And then what role Shawn Michaels, I mean, the story, like there were so many story arcs to this match that it was just one of the best dramas that I saw live action. And I mean, the match was great, so that was the match of the night in my opinion. And did you like that match?
Oh,
Mr.
yeah.
McElvaney?
It was fantastic, Brock Koller. And I was of the opinion that the crowd was so very into that match, and I was at home. I was, stepping up out of my chair, and I mean, there were a couple of matches like that last night, and I think that really speaks to the talent of some of the guys, because you watch all these years, it's very easy to sit back and not necessarily be cynical, but just relax and sit in your chair and like, oh yeah, this is good. But when you can actually be hinging so much on the result of a match after so many years watching it, really says something, and I could tell the crowd felt the same way, the entire crowd.
Right. No, yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, they were not taking it for granted. They were definitely invested in the match, and I think that match alone was, as they say, worth the price of admission.
Now, do you think the crowd was a little bit tired after that? Did it seem like it took a little bit longer to get into some of the other matches? Specifically, I'm thinking the Punk-Jericho match, because obviously those are two guys the crowd reacts very quickly to, but I felt like by the end of the match they had the crowd, but early on I feel like there was maybe not unrest, but actually the crowd just didn't sound as energetic as it was. I'm wondering if maybe that Hell in a Cell match should have gone on a little later in the show, as much as I like to see the title matches on as late as possible.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Like, definitely, it's always nice to see the WWE Championship match have some good meaning and be as late in the card as possible. But yeah, I think it would be a safe bet to say that Cell match wore us out a little bit, wore the crowd out. But I don't know. I was cheering for Punk as loudly as possible. But I mean, when you're on your feet for however long that match was, I don't know however long. But
I think it was about half hour or so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was standing up as much as possible, and I mean. That takes a lot of energy, Kevin, to stand up from a seat.
It does. It's harder some days than others. So.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think and was the I already forget the card, was the 12-man match after that, or after that as well?
The tag match, the Team Johnny and Team Teddy match that was in between the Hell in a Cell and the WWE title match, which I think it was there for a reason, because there needed to be something of a buffer there. So. Yeah,
I would say for that match, I wasn't cheering as loudly as I was in the previous match.
Right. That was your chance to rest or get a beverage.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, which I feel really bad for, because they do work hard. It's just a shame the way they are treated on television. The Divas, when that Divas video came on, that vignette about what it takes to be a diva and stuff, I mean, it was like run for the concession stand time. It was like it was like the sea has parted and let Moses walk through with everybody was running away, and I was like, come on, guys, Maria Menounos is coming up, and nobody was listening to me, and everybody was leaving, and people
then you
had to make me get up.
You said, do you even care about the history of Channel 1 News? Please tell me you remember her from Channel 1 News in addition to her.
I do not, but I laughed at your joke anyway. As I always have, Kevin. Whether I get your jokes or not.
You have to get our jokes in. Everybody's got to get their jokes in.
But then, I don't know, the Divas match, it was what it was.
Yeah, right.
Mike's laughing that we're talking about the Divas match.
Well, I will say I really enjoyed the Molly go round that Kelly used. that was no for real.
Yeah.
I miss Molly Holly. That was a big moment for me as far as that match.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yep,
Good memory there.
Yeah, 6 years ago. I would hope I remember it. Is there anything? I know you're busy. I know you got to head off to Raw tonight, right? So
Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, that's still happening. Remember that. That's WrestleMania is not the end of things.
Yes, no. I wonder what's going to happen tonight. Will Lord Tensai make his long-awaited return?
Perhaps. I don't want to speculate too much because by the time this show airs, most people will probably be listening after Raw, so it's better to focus on WrestleMania.
Well, they should be listening now. They should put a bug on my phone and be able
during
to
Raw. Really, that's when it goes up for it. That's when it goes up at thebradyhicks.com anyway. So, but at any rate, I know you're busy and have to go. But did you have anything else you wanted to add? Any last comments about the show?
I would definitely say, like I said before, the cell match was the best. Rock Cena, I thought it was great for what it was. It was a great show. I would like to watch it again on TV to see what it was like for viewers at home. But live, it was fun to watch. At some parts, people behind me were like, they had a year to book this match, and this is how. So some fans behind me weren't a bit happy with how the match was going along, but that wasn't my opinion. I was having a good time, and I liked how everything went. I was quite surprised, personally, that The Rock won. There were a lot of surprising wins.
Oh yeah, that was a huge surprise.
But even bigger than that, Kane won. I was like, what?
You know, I actually picked Kane for my predictions.
Did you?
But the reason was right. It was basically. But I honestly didn't think he was going to win. I sort of picked CM Punk to win when I was actually mentally sort of leaning towards Jericho, but I wanted to be able to confidently pick Punk and be happy when he won because I was pulling for him. So I think a part of me said, well, in order for Punk to win, there have to be some villains that are going to win here tonight. It can't be all the good guys winning. So I actually picked Kane, and I turned out to be right, and I was shocked.
Yeah, I think you were one of three, and the other one were Kane and Paul Bearer.
Paul has a lot of faith in his son, you know. That's important.
So that was really surprising. But and that was good that he won. It was good the Big Show won after they dragged him down with his WrestleMania pass. WrestleMania, baby, woo! Had to get that in there, Kevin.
Yeah, well, good, very good. Get your jokes in.
All right. So overall, I think it was a decent show, and can't wait for next year in New York, New Jersey.
Yeah, they did. They had both in the logo. That was strange, but anyway, hopefully I'll be there. Thanks as always. Well, not as always. This is the first time you've been on this show, but I've enjoyed your commentary.
I always enjoy coming on, Kevin.
We'd like to have you back on soon, and thanks again for coming
definitely.
On.
No problem.
Stay tuned for more Bowling Shoe Handsome.
I keep talking in my sleep about the things that weigh heavy on my heart and they burden me. I see angels come to take me away, but they forgot to sew my mouth shut. That was their first mistake. I don't remember all the things we talked about, but I would never, no not ever, carry one of them out. I keep talking in my sleep, The things I said were very strange. Won't you forgive me? I don't remember all the things we talked about, but I would never, no not ever, carry one of them out.
That was the band Sass Dragons with the song Sleeptalking. And up next, we've got part one of our interview with wrestling analyst, The Real Deal. And now we welcome to Bowling Shoe Handsome, wrestling analyst, The Real Deal. Real Deal, welcome to Bowling Shoe Handsome.
Welcome to talking to The Real Deal, Kev.
It's always a pleasure, and I thought everybody would appreciate, as I do, your input on anything professional wrestling related, but specifically, we're one night later, after WrestleMania 28, and I wanted to get your thoughts. So just right off the bat, general impressions about the show as a whole, specific things you liked, didn't like, just go.
General impressions, definitely best match, the Undertaker Triple H Hell in a Cell.
Mm-hmm.
Not the best wrestling match, but it was definitely a case of two guys that went out and they said they're gonna tell a story with a match, and they definitely did that, and it kind of, they are the three biggest, guys from that era still around that still could go, and they kind of put that show on and kind of closed out an era of wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you and me grew up watching, essentially. So
right.
I guess for people who are wrestling fans, between the ages of 25 and 30, it's probably a big deal, because I remember high school watching those guys kind of come up and become giant stars, and now to see them kind of plateau, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's surreal, honestly. I mean, you watch those guys for so many years, seeing them through their best and their worst, and I mean, Undertaker even goes back further than that. We were kids when he started really coming up, but then as he evolved and he had his first matches with Shawn Michaels and with Triple H, we were adolescents, and then in our 20s now, there are actually still plenty of wrestling fans in their 20s, and this was a really big thing for them, and definitely the most emotional match of the night. I don't think anybody would argue about that.
Yeah, the emotion didn't even seem to the Jericho and the Punk match, I thought was probably the best technical match of the night. Like, if that was predicted going in, but even the Cena match, I thought the match was okay.
Wait, actually, let's go back for a second. You said that the best technical match of the night was Punk versus Jericho, when clearly there was a match involving Maria Menounos.
Oh, well, I did want to mention this because there was at my viewing party that I had there was avid speculation about the substance that came onto Maria Menounos' white pants, and why you would choose to wrestle a Divas match in white pants when there's a stink face spot is beyond me.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the high road there.
That's a wardrobe malfunction waiting to happen. I'm glad she cleared it up later on Twitter that it was Eve's makeup.
Yeah.
But
I think it speaks to how much Ren and Stimpy we all watched growing up. But the same thing here, we weren't quite sure what was going on there at first, and then it's probably makeup. We need to get our heads out of that match.
I think even in that match, though, I think you see evidence that they rehired Finlay, because that match is honestly better than most of the Divas matches I've seen in a while.
Yeah, there was some actual flow to it. I'm really not sure who's been putting the Divas matches together, and I mean, this is not to be insulting or condescending, but they used to have a roster of divas who knew how to wrestle matches. At least even someone like Trish, who didn't initially understand how to put a match together, well, she definitely does now. And you had a lot of, you had Molly Holly, you had Lita, you had Jazz, you had Ivory, you had a lot of other great women's wrestlers back, and we were sort of lamenting the loss of that last night. And actually, I did an interview with Brock Koller earlier, and I was mentioning to him that one of my favorite parts of that, my favorite part of that match was the use of the Molly Go Round by Kelly Kelly. So, yeah, I think there were little bits of inspiration from the women's division, years of the women's division gone by. And I think you could see Finlay's influence if he is indeed back, because again, it's what was kind of cool. Did you ever get the impression that a lot of those Divas matches were very like European style wrestling matches, even though it was a little different?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, even the ending of the match last night, my thing with the Divas matches are they all, like, so many of them just seem to end with, like, roll-ups that were just, like, ridiculously weak.
Right.
Like, we're talking, like, Stone Cold Owen Hart roll-up week. And,
That's a little different.
And it was a roll-up yesterday, but it was a roll-up where there was a collision and a kind of a mix-up and a confusion. It was a logical build-up to the roll. Like, you can work a roll-up into any match and have it be a realistic finish, but there has to be some kind of build-up. And, like, they actually said, too, I think, you know, to a lot of the defenses under the Divas now, I don't really think
they're not wrestlers.
They're given much of a shit. They don't get much time. It's tough to say, go out there and put on a match in a minute. You kind of just say, okay, well, they want us to go out there and they want us to kind of be, you know, to smile and wave and, oh, by the way, you have a minute to put on a match that people are going to think is good. It's almost like saying
it's not possible,
you know,
right? Even if you are a trained
they're
wrestler,
giving them a difficult task on TV, and you know, I was glad that they actually gave them some time on, you know, on a big stage to do a decent job.
Right. Okay, but back, you know, that started with a joke and actually turned into a pretty good conversation. We'll have to pick that up another time. But you were about to talk about the Rock Cena match, so there's a lot of talk about this. First of all, most people seem to be really surprised, myself included, by the result. At the moment that match was announced last year, I thought, yeah, Cena, no chance anything else is happening. And there's a lot of talk about the match itself and how it went down. What were your thoughts about the Rock Cena match?
Yeah, my thoughts on it were I thought it was an okay match. I thought at points it just looked like it looked like there wasn't. You could tell that it was a match kind of between two face kind of characters.
Right.
Because it didn't seem like there was a quote good guy and a quote bad guy.
Right.
The ending was definitely shocking. I was surprised that I was really actually surprised that The Rock was going to win. That The Rock did win. I really didn't think he was going to. I know you heard people speculate that they said, well, maybe The Rock will fight, you know, Cena in other matches, and this is kind of the first of a few matches that'll kind of make Cena over the long run go over. I'm not sure. People were wondering if there was going to be some kind of interference in the match. You know, I wouldn't have been shocked if The Rock won due to some kind of interference or some kind of, you know, crazy circumstance. But the fact that he just beat him clean definitely surprised me. Even though, you know, just the course of the match, it looked like the Rock was dominated by John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
John Cena seemed to dish out more of the punishment in the match, and The Rock kind of pulled a John Cena and came out of nowhere and won.
Right, and I think that's definitely going to be feeding into something else in the future, which is really why I didn't see The Rock winning the match. I really didn't think he was going to be hanging around for much longer, and I think he's got to be coming back at least for one more match. And I would think, you know, you have them go 1-1, you have to have a third.
That's kind of the idea that I got, that they are possibly going to do a match at SummerSlam, and then, which is in LA,
there you
I
go.
believe, and then WrestleMania is in New York. So, I mean, that would make sense that The Rock, 2 more matches in WWE,
Right.
would be LA and New York.
Right,
both,
major
you know,
markets and the cities where he might actually be doing other
big
work.
events.
Yeah, right. Momentarily, we're going to resume the interview, part 2, with The Real Deal and his reactions to WrestleMania, as well as some more of my reactions, if that's your sort of thing, and hopefully it is. It better be. All right, that was too threatening. I apologize. Up next, we have music from the band Turkish Techno. Their LP, Past Due, out on Dirt Cult Records. This song is called Without You on Bowling Shoe Handsome.
Waiting there for you, but you never came around. You always let me down. And I see, when I'm sitting with my friends, every drunken memory, they were there for me. And I know, when I needed you the most, when all the doors were closed, you were there for me.
now part 2 of the interview with The Real Deal. Okay, we're back here. I'm back here with The Real. I'm very used to doing this with John still, weeks out, still getting used to saying I'm instead of we're. I'm here with The Real Deal and Bowling Shoe Handsome. And
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks again for coming on. And yeah, so there's some implications if John Cena is going to be busy with The Rock, John Cena being the biggest star in the company, what does that mean for the rest of, just say, the Raw brand? If John Cena is focused on The Rock for the next, 6 months to 8 months or a year or whatever it might be.
Well, I definitely think it takes him out of the title picture for the most part. It doesn't really make too much sense to have, matches where John Cena has the title, wins the title, then has to essentially lose it because he's going to be facing The Rock, who obviously really isn't in a position to win the title, doesn't really need any title or anything like that at this point. I think it definitely creates the door for CM Punk to carry that ball for a long time. There's a lot of CM Punk is the kind of guy he can pretty much work with anyone you would need. He could make a guy who isn't really great in the ring better. He could have great matches with guys like Jericho every night. I still think you could have good matches with Kane. You always could, with guys being on both shows, you could always put John Cena onto SmackDown primarily and gear him towards the younger audience and move Randy Orton to Raw and have him be a heel. There's a lot of different build-up ways you can go, and there's a lot of guys you can have CM Punk feud with. A guy I would like to see him feud with once he's back and a little bit more healthy. They kind of had a minor confrontation, but they kind of actually built a little bit up towards that having a feud was Christian.
Right, and of course
they built that last week. Right,
Punk injured him on the go-home Raw before WrestleMania, so there you go. I mean, not legitimately injured him, of course, but we're not...
Right, so I'm not sure when Christian is ready to go, but I mean, as a guy who's really liked Christian for a long time and a guy like Punk, I think those two guys could really carry a program.
Yeah.
Christian would be great at getting that cheap-heat, and they could really play well off each other. And I think just match-wise, they would have they could have a great match. They can both do so many different styles and different things in the ring. And
right.
I would really like to see that. I think they could do multiple matches. I just hope that with all the stuff that's going on, that they get the proper time to go out there and do their thing.
Right. I completely agreed. Now, I know you're busy. I know you have a lot to do tonight. Of course, as we're recording this, we're all getting ready. The big post-WrestleMania Raw is also coming on. But what I wanted to ask you specifically about, this is what I started my conversation with Brock Koller with, and I'd like to wrap up with you with your opinion of this. Thoughts on what happened between Daniel Bryan and Sheamus and what that means for the SmackDown brand?
I was a little bit disappointed by the Daniel Bryan Sheamus match. I'm not saying I don't believe Sheamus deserves it. I actually feel that some people are like, oh, they're burying Daniel Bryan. How could do that to him? But for a guy like Sheamus who won the Royal Rumble, to come out and not only not be in one of the later card matches, but to wrestle first and then essentially not even get to wrestle, it kind of takes a little bit of the luster away from your world title win.
Yeah, it sure does.
And I mean, he was a world champ before, but it was kind of a cheap win, and this would have been his moment at WrestleMania. And I feel like he seems to be a guy that had a lot of momentum, and he is really, really athletic for a big guy. And the same thing for Daniel Bryan. He's arguably in ring wise one of their top 2-3 workers that they have in ring. And Sheamus is no slouch, and they kind of just said, well, we're going to give, it's an interesting point when you say, well, we're going to give all these things time other than your match. We're going to have Brodus Clay come out and have a dance contest for 5 minutes, and we're going to have bands kind of just randomly play songs that don't really have too much to do with John Cena or The Rock play for 10 minutes total, and we're going to give that time to that. So it is kind of I guess they got a paycheck, they got what they wanted to do. I did, I was talking to you earlier, and I remember you mentioned the
my theory behind that.
Your theory behind that. I'm familiar with that. That they were afraid that Daniel Bryan was going to get cheered during the match.
And he sure did, even for the very brief period of time.
He definitely did, and I mean, and that is an interesting theory, but I don't think you can be. I think being afraid of the audience reaction is just. It's just I don't agree with that. I mean, it's their business, obviously.
Well,
but
to
I
elaborate
don't think
a little
you
more,
can be
because
afraid of the way the audience is reacting.
To elaborate a little more on that, because the audience wasn't privy to that. Anyone who's listening now. Basically, my theory, and this is the only explanation I could come up with, the explanation given online was that they wanted to have the shortest world title match in WrestleMania history. They didn't have the shortest world title match in WrestleMania history. If they'd wanted to do it, they could have done it. My opinion was that this was a way to sort of protect Sheamus, give him this big win, and not have the crowd split up, half of them cheering for Daniel Bryan. You saw all these Daniel Bryan signs in the crowd. People were chanting along with him. People were chanting his name well into the second match. So I think I still stand by my theory to some degree, but I agree that you shouldn't. You shouldn't go against the crowd, what the crowd wants to see. You shouldn't go against those inclinations that the crowd has to cheer for a certain guy. You just have to find a way to work around them, and not deprive the people of the match that they paid money to see. And I think it really was a cheap shot, not just at Daniel Bryan, but at Sheamus, because this was a big title win that he wasn't even really given any time to shine during it. It was just such a quick throwaway segment. And I think it says a lot about how they feel about the World Heavyweight title, too, especially given that this is 2 years in a row. Not only this match kicked off the show, but that it wasn't given a lot of time. Now, I understand last year Edge was hurt, but what was the reasoning this year? You know, it just seems like a cheap shot.
Not sure. I think it's not only the World Heavyweight title, but just SmackDown in general.
Right.
You look at the differentiation of talent between the two shows and just the guys that are always on Raw, which is pretty much everyone. And they say, you know, everyone from SmackDown can be on Raw, but
right.
guys that are on Raw are exclusively on Raw. You don't see John Cena on SmackDown.
Very rarely.
Very rarely. And I think it's in their best interest to, when your show, SmackDown, is watched more by children because it's on Friday nights. You know, just when it's on and the kind of show that they do, to not have your biggest guy, who is also by far your biggest with young kids, not on that show every week, it's silly.
And he could easily do both shows.
Right, because he does house shows on Tuesday nights typically. Right.
I mean, he doesn't necessarily need to be on it every week on SmackDown, but he could certainly make appearances more than he does. I mean, it's not just Cena. There's a few other guys that are on the Raw brand who would definitely do well with the SmackDown crowd and could also help the show. So,
right. I do think that eventually you are going to see the weaning. You've seen it already, but you're going to see the weaning down of the of the brand split to the point where it's not. To the point where it's not really two brands. It's essentially just two shows, one brand, and they may have the world title in some kind of incarnation, but it's not gonna be a true world title anymore.
You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because Michael Cole actually said during the show last night, during the Punk Jericho match, this is the WWE title, the most prestigious title in WWE. He actually said that. So normally, I mean, it's certainly that's the perception most of the time, but they actually came out and said it.
I think it's hard to not do that because but I think if you remember, back when they originally did the title split, and Triple H, and they had, I think it was like Brock Lesnar with the WWE title on SmackDown, and it was Triple H with the
World Heavyweight
title that they made up. It was the Raw title, and at that time, the Raw title was the world title, and it was the most important title that they had. And I honestly think it's just more about whatever title is on Raw because it's always been the more favored show.
Right.
Even above SmackDown, especially now that SmackDown is not even on network television; it's on Sci-Fi.
Yeah, and it's of course Raw is on cable, but it's a far more. It's like you said, it's Sci-Fi versus USA. No offense to Sci-Fi, but come on.
Yeah, so. I think Raw's been pretty much on USA Raw's been on the same time slot for about 15, 20 years, and it's been on USA for 15 of those years. So
right.
It's, people know, oh, okay, what time is it? It's 9 o'clock on Monday. Oh, I know Raw's on. I know it's on USA.
Right. Well said. All right, well, thank you for your time. I know you have to get to some other things. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Final thoughts on WrestleMania?
Final thoughts on WrestleMania. I just thought it was overall, the stuff with Daniel Bryan and Jimmy Snuka. I thought it was a really good show.
Mm-hmm.
It was really compelling to watch, and there's a lot of years where it's just it's a little bit of a yawn, but yeah, overall great. I thought it was a really, really good, strong show. Like 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10.
All right. Well, thanks again to The Real Deal for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we hope to have you back soon. And
all right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for coming to Bowling Shoe Handsome with The Real Deal.
We're living a life of abundance. The squalor of rentals aside, we cherish our things and live beyond our means to the tune of our paychecks demise. We're living a life of reluctance, that impulse under the influence aside, we hold on to our peace and we stay in our seats and we haunt each other's halls all night. Well, they say one in hand is better than two beside, and most times, well, it's hard not to agree. Of my actions left aside, well, it's just not alright that there's so many.
That was the title track from the album Life of Abundance by the band Tin Armor. We heard another one of their songs earlier on in the show. If you're interested, I should have given you the URL earlier, but if you're interested in their stuff, you can check out their Bandcamp at Tin Armor, TINARMOR.bandcamp.com or tinarmor.blogspot.com. I'd like to thank all of the bands that we played here tonight for their permission to use their material, to include it in the show, and to hopefully get you interested in some of the music if you haven't heard it before. Special thanks also to Dirt Cult Records, and thanks to our guest tonight, of course, The Real Deal and Brock Koller. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back here next week with regular, more off-kilter programming here. But we had to, of course, cover WrestleMania because it's what everybody's talking about right now. We hope you enjoyed the show. We hope you enjoy the show in weeks to come. And by we, once again, I mean I. Thanks again for tuning in to Bowling Shoe Handsome. Leave comments to bowlingshoehandsome@gmail.com in the comments on our YouTube page, BSH Podcasts. And, of course, you can comment at thebradyhicks.com. For Bowling Shoe Handsome, I'm Kevin McElvaney. See you next week.
So don't ask me how I am, don't ask me how